Aaron Charles Carter. And for you guys who don't know, this is Aaron Carter. For what's hidden and hidden behind darkness, present and future, visible and invisible, for what we want to know. And we want to know, did he commit suicide? Was he told to kill himself? Was he trying to escape his demons? Or did someone kill him? Wow, this is all about murder. And the God of the Saints will be the answers to his questions for what's hidden and hidden behind darkness. Here we go. This ought to be interesting.
Oh, man.
Hang on to your seats.
There's just a lot of things about this here.
Okay, what does that mean? First two coming out for Aaron Carter. We're gonna do the whole. We're gonna do the whole deck. So we're not gonna do the circle. Here we go. First two.
Oh, deco.
He said he was discontent and he was angry. Angry at his mom. Angry at someone that was older than him who cut him like a knife. In other words, it was a double-edged sword no matter what he did. It says in the crossing of that, it says he was trying to find a way to return back to making money. So I don't know if he was trying to make music again or what he was trying to do, but that's kind of what it says. It says on the bottom of that, it says that there was things in his life that he hadn't quite mastered yet. And I don't know if that was probably his drug use, whatever was going on. It says in the past, there was just no more decisions to make. Like he was just kind of beaten up and worn down. It says, but he was in the right place at the right time to make a change. So he was on the crossroads of either coming out of it and actually moving forward and becoming something again, or he couldn't escape the drugs. It says the relationship in the future is no longer. In other words, it's upside down. So this is what happens when people die. Everything starts turning upside down. It says there's no reconciliation. So it talks about him never being able to reconcile with his mom, his parents. It talks about not being able to reconcile, period. It also talks about him being a fool. So him saying that he's a fool makes me wonder if he did take his own life. It does say, maybe he didn't take it on purpose, or maybe he did. Yeah, I guess that's what we're asking, right? And it says, what's interesting is it says he wasn't afraid. Like, he wasn't afraid anymore. I guess he was tired. And at the same time, it says there's no more love. So a lot of things are going to say no more because they're no longer there. The other thing it's saying, there was a lot of burden on his back, and he had become impatient with his life and with himself. And I know by, people that I've known who've used drugs and some type of drug use I had it myself, drugs do make you very impatient, very edgy, and make you think about things that you shouldn't want to do or make mistakes. It says that's what's incomplete here. It says that there was a Great Depression that was all over him. So these are the base cards. It says, here we go. He says there was no more fruit in the tree. There was no more good things that he felt were coming to him. It says everything that he had faith in, which was his family. It says everything had turned upside down. Even parts with his lover, like there was things that was controlling his life. It says his relationships were upside down. It says, and it seemed like life was just a battle, a struggle, more of a burden than anything else to him. It says even though he wanted to return to making money and to doing stuff, he knew he was just lying to himself. He was deceiving himself. It was an illusion. It was an illusion so that he can find a reason to try to stop the drugs and start doing all the things he was doing, but he knew that he wasn't going to be able to do it. He knew that. It says, and again, he revokes back to the relationship with his mom and his parents and the deception that's there. It says, and that was all about money. And so he always had that regret of losing that money for everything that he did. It says he wasn't angry anymore, but just completely unhappy. He just felt like he was an unfortunate soul with everything that had happened. It says, and that was something that he truly couldn't overcome. It says there was no mastery of that. It says he knew he was upside down, but at that time he didn't know if he wanted to die yet. Like there was moments where he was like, I want to live, I want to move forward, but he was always having to defend himself with everything he did. In other words, he was fighting the drugs and fighting against himself. That's who he was fighting against. It says, the people in his life were going upside down, and even though he could do whatever he wanted, it just didn't seem to, it wasn't paying off for him anymore. It just wasn't like it used to be. I think he was going to the point where the depression and the drugs were taking way over. It says he was in the right place at the right time to make a change, but things just didn't work out. It says the past overcame him. It says, and money was waiting for him. So he would have come back and made money. He probably would have went back on a tour or something, or you know what I mean? I don't know if he can still sing or not, but definitely he could have come back.
Trying to rap, yo.
It says it just wasn't clear yet. And maybe he would have come back as a rapper. It says he could not get away from his temptations, and there's the temptation. So the death card came out, right?
No.
Yeah, it did.
Oh.
It says so they didn't kill him, but it looks like he may have OD'd. And he may have planned to OD. It's saying, yeah, they didn't kill him, Tony. I think it was a ritual. Maybe they may have told him he should kill himself because they were going to do it anyways, but I don't know. It doesn't say yet. It says a woman upside down. It says not happy, no true love. It says there was moments that were good and moments that were bad. Ever since he was a child, he felt like he was upside down. And so just a lot of regret. And there's my card kind of reading it. When you come to here, it's kind of saying, no chance to reconcile whatever feelings were, or even the things with his parents, stuff like that. It says, and even though there was an opportunity for him to be in love with a woman, it says that even, he thought that would never end, and it's still there was problems there. It says it didn't seem like the sun would ever shine. It says, and whatever road he took, whatever things he did, it says it always led on a different path. In other words, he would head down a good road only to find a detour to go back to what was calling him, and that's unfortunate. It says there was a big change that came, and he thought that was going to be his breakthrough. It says, but that's not true. He was only fooling himself. Like, he knew that the condition he wasn't going to be able to, maybe as a rapper, but he wasn't going to be able to do everything he wanted to do like he had before. But he wanted to return to what he loved. It says it had become a hardship for him. It says nobody was doing witchcraft to him or anything. The road was open for him to go forward all the way. But he was so stuck into his house and kind of secluded in a way that kind of like really started to create this huge depression. It says he wasn't afraid to take risks. Like, he knew he needed to take a risk. But the opportunities were just so minute. There wasn't a lot of opportunities at the moment. It says that he was afraid that was going to cut off his head and he wouldn't succeed and he'd fail. And he knew he'd end up upside down again. And so he became very self-doubtful of himself and what he was trying to do in his career, where he was going. He had good intentions, but those were the obstacles that created in his life. It says that he hoped that those problems would go away, but you can't hope a problem like that away. You got to want to quit. And so that's kind of where he was at. It says not a lot of love in his life. He felt like that was a weakness, that he needed more love. And a lot of that came from the fact that there was a lot of stress around him because of money and stuff like that. It says, and everyone who tried to offer him love, like he thinks back to the people who tried to be loving with him or could have been in relationships with, he says he didn't want to be alone, so he had people around him, but then he just didn't want them around. He wanted them to leave. So he was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of stuff. Really a lot of weird shit that went on with this kid. It says there was a lot of burden on his back from the past. He went through a lot of traumatic things. I think in the industry he was abused. It's also saying that made him very anxious with a lot of things, and there was a lot of regret. It says at the same time, things in his life were left incomplete because of that. Like, he feels like a part of him was stolen, and there's a lot of regret and a lot of humiliation behind that. It says spiritually, it was like slowly, he was trying to find, at some point, trying to find God. It says he thought that would heal him, but he couldn't. Everything else kind of took over. The drug kind of took over. Everything took over. It says, and so the depression became so unbearable that as much as he wanted to triumph in his life, there was no triumph. Wow, it says it right there. That's some shit. It says fighting for a new beginning, only to be destroyed. Like, everything he tried just kind of landed in his face. It says, and he ended up with no money. Like, he didn't have a lot of money. The world was upside down for him, and he had been brought to his knees. It says, and karma started to over for all the things that he did. It says, not worried about broken heart, but not, everything was upside down. Broken heart, relationships, justice. There was no more celebrating. For him, what was left incomplete had already been hitting him since the beginning when he started all this. So he lived this life over and over again in a circle. Basically, whatever he was going through at the end is how it started. The abuse and everything led to the drugs, and that's how he kind of got hooked. And then he was, big star, and then there's money and everything else. And it just kept going to circle. Every time we try to do something, it's taken from him. Kind of like Vicente Fernandez. I know you don't want to hear that. But kind of like him, like everything he tried to do, someone tried to steal it from him. And he felt like there was nothing he could do. And I guess you get to a point where, what do you do? Like, how do you get your parents off your back when you're a child star? You know what I mean? And how do you get all this depression off your back when they say that a lot of kids who become successful when they're younger I mean, either commit suicide or want to commit suicide or go through some traumatic shit. Probably because of the abuse they go through in the industry, and probably because they don't get a chance to fully grow.
There's no childhood.
No, there's no childhood, exactly. And so that's pretty much what it's saying. That's really interesting. But that's the reading for Aaron Carter. So he did overuse drugs. I don't know if he was told to kill himself. It doesn't say that, but it may have been. Who knows? But at this point,
Jenny Bear says, yes, he had so much resentment towards his parents, especially his mom, since he was a kid.
Yeah, and that's what it's kind of saying. And that's why he said he wished he could have reconciled, because he needed that love from her. He really needed that closeness with her, and he felt like she stole a part of him. And I guess it's really true, because the one person that I trust the most is my mom, you know what I mean? And I think most of you do too, unless you have problems with your mom. But that's the person I trust the most with my life. And so when someone betrays you like that, and that's the person that's supposed to love you more than anybody, to me that's devastating. I don't know about you guys, that's just devastating. So that's kind of crazy. But I don't know.
He always wanted love from her, but she never wanted to.
And you know,
money.
And you know what's funny is, like, I feel sorry for people like that, because even though you know they was famous and they had this and that, there's got to be such a dark place that you have to go to, that you can't get out of, and that you turn to everything to destroy yourself. I think people who have been abused sexually and people who have been through a lot of stuff, it's a dark place unless you can get some help. And drugs only makes it darker. I mean, it makes it feel good for a moment. It kind of soothes you and kind of soothes the pain as you're getting high. But when you're coming down, everything's going away. I mean, you've got to be in the darkest places in the world and wondering if everybody knows what you've been through. This is scary. Yeah, that's some crazy shit. I've been there too. I did stuff, but I found my way out. I always found my way out. I never wanted to continue.
That's not the only child that committed suicide. He also had an older sister that committed suicide.
Oh, yeah, the sister that committed suicide? Well, maybe that's why he went down that road. But he didn't do it in such a manner that I think it was so obvious that he committed suicide. I think he did it in a way just to go. Because why would he be in the tub like that? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Yeah. Well, it could have been a ritual. They could have told him, like, hey, you do it or we're going to do it.
I do it on a blood moon, dude.
We'd have to ask that question specifically, just that question, if we wanted an answer.
I think it was during the blood moon.
Yeah, during the blood moon.